The average American household is now a millionaire. That's not a typo. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the average net worth of American households reached $1.06 million. The average, not the top 10%, the average. If you're watching this video, you probably don't feel like a millionaire. Most people don't, because that number is wildly misleading. The median net worth, the actual middle of the distribution, where half of households fall above and half fall below, is $192,700, a massive gap from the average. Because a handful of extremely wealthy households at the top skew that average dramatically upward. The top 10% of American households hold about 67% of all wealth, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, which means the remaining 90% of households split the other third. So when people online tell you becoming a millionaire is easy, that anyone can do it, that wealth is just about mindset, they're usually trying to sell you something. But here's what's actually interesting. When you dig into the Federal Reserve data, not social media opinions, not anecdotes from people trying to move product, actual data from the most comprehensive financial survey conducted in the United States, clear patterns emerge about how real millionaires build wealth. Not overnight success stories, not lottery winners, not trust fund recipients. Real people who built seven-figure net worths over decades through specific identifiable behaviors. Today, we're examining 5 habits that show up consistently in the data, backed by actual numbers from the Federal Reserve and the largest study ever conducted on American millionaires. No speculation, no motivation, just what the data shows. First, we need precision about what millionaire actually means. The word gets thrown around so loosely online that it's almost meaningless. When the Federal Reserve conducts its survey of consumer finances every 3 years, millionaire status refers to household net worth, the total value of everything owned minus everything owed. That includes home equity, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, business ownership, vehicles, cash savings, minus mortgages, student loans, car loans, credit cards, and all other debt. As of 2022, approximately 18% of American households qualified as millionaires by this definition. That's roughly 23.7 million households with net worth exceeding $1 million. By 2024, that number grew to approximately 23.8 million, according to UBS data. The U.S. added about 379,000 new millionaires in 2024 alone. Some important context. A large portion of millionaire net worth comes from home equity and retirement accounts. These are real assets, but they're not exactly liquid. You can't spend your 401k without penalty until you're 59 and a half. You can't spend your home equity without selling or borrowing against your house. Investable assets, money you can actually access and deploy, tell a different story. The definition matters depending on what kind of millionaire you're trying to become. With that clarity, let's examine what the data actually shows about how these 23 million households got there. Habit 1. They save consistently. Imperfectly, but persistently. The U.S. personal saving rate, as of early 2025, sits around 4.4%, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. That means the typical American household saves roughly 4 cents of every dollar of disposable income. During the pandemic, that rate spiked to 33.8% when lockdowns eliminated spending options and stimulus checks arrived. But those savings have largely been spent. We're back to historical norms where most households save almost nothing. According to Federal Reserve data from 2024, only 55% of adults have set aside money to cover 3 months of expenses. The other 30% have no emergency cushion whatsoever. But millionaire households behave differently. According to the Ramsey Solutions National Study of Millionaires, a study that surveyed over 10,000 American millionaires, 3 out of 4 respondents cited regular, consistent investing over a long period of time as the #1 factor in reaching their net worth. That's 75% pointing to the same thing. Not stock-picking genius, not cryptocurrency speculation, consistency over time. When the study asked millionaires to rank factors contributing to their wealth, financial discipline ranked number 1. Saving consistently ranked number 2. The pattern in the Federal Reserve data supports this. High-income households, those earning $100,000 or more, report dramatically higher emergency savings rates. About 75% have 3 months of expenses set aside, compared to just 24% of households earning under $25,000. But income alone doesn't explain millionaire status. According to the Ramsey study, only 31% of millionaires averaged $100,000 or more per year over their careers. 1/3 of millionaires never earned a 6-figure salary in any single working year of their lives. The differentiator isn't earning extraordinary income. It's not abandoning the savings habit when life gets complicated, when kids arrive, when career changes happen, when recessions hit. Lower wealth households often save whatever's left after expenses. When pressure arrives, savings disappear first because the budget has no margin. Higher wealth households structure savings as non-negotiable. It comes off the top before lifestyle has a chance to consume it. According to Financial Samurai analysis of wealth data, top 1% earners typically save around 38% of their income. The national average is 4.4%. That gap compounds dramatically over decades. The habit isn't perfection. It's not saving 25% from age 22 onward. It's treating savings as structural rather than optional, adjusting the rate based on circumstances, but never abandoning the habit entirely. Habit 2. They actually invest. This is where the Federal Reserve data becomes striking. According to the 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, direct stock ownership increased from 15% to 21% of American families between 2019 and 2022. That 6 percentage point jump was the largest change on record since the survey began in 1989. 6% of American families started investing in stocks during a period that included a pandemic, a market crash, and historic volatility. More people than ever before now hold equities directly, but that still means roughly 79% of American households own no stocks directly. When you include indirect ownership through retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs, participation rises. About 54% of U.S. households had savings in retirement accounts as of 2022, according to Congressional Research Service analysis of Federal Reserve data. But nearly half of American households have zero retirement savings. Millionaire households look completely different. According to the Ramsey study, 8 out of 10 millionaires invested in their company's 401k plan. 80%. 3 out of 4 also invested outside of company plans, in IRAs, taxable brokerage accounts, or other vehicles. When the study asked millionaires what factors contributed to their success, single stock picking didn't even make the top 3. Neither did any exotic investment strategy. The factor they pointed to was simply participation, staying invested through market cycles rather than timing entries and exits. Federal Reserve data shows that wealth portfolios shift dramatically as net worth increases. According to Richmond Fed analysis, households between the 25th and 50th percentile of wealth hold most of their assets in vehicles and cash, low-yield holdings that don't compound. As you move up the wealth distribution, portfolios shift towards stocks, business equity, and real estate. The top 1% holds dramatically higher proportions in business ownership and equities. Here's the mathematical reality that makes this matter. Cash loses purchasing power over time. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, $100 in January 2000 required approximately $195 by December 2025 to maintain the same purchasing power. Cash sitting in a checking account lost nearly half its real value over 25 years, simply to inflation. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 has delivered average annual returns around 10% over the past 30 years. Not every year, some years showed massive losses, but someone who stayed invested rather than timing exits built wealth while cash holders fell behind. The Ramsey study found that millionaires aren't investment geniuses. They're not picking winners or timing markets. They're simply participating. They get invested, stay invested, and let time do the compounding work. The most important investment decision you'll ever make isn't which stock to buy. It's deciding to invest it all rather than leaving money in cash. Habit 3. They use tax-advantaged accounts aggressively. This is where a lot of people overcomplicate things. Online debates about Roth versus traditional accounts, tax bracket optimization, conversion strategies, withdrawal sequencing, these discussions have value, eventually. But they create paralysis for people who haven't started investing at all. The Federal Reserve data tells a simpler story. According to the 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, median retirement account balances vary dramatically by wealth tier. For households with retirement accounts, the median balance was approximately $87,000 nationally. But that masks enormous variation by net worth. Empower Personal Dashboard data from Q1 2025 shows average 401k balances reaching $302,558 among their users. Average total retirement savings reached $481,435. These are averages among people actively tracking their finances, likely already above typical. But the pattern holds. People building wealth tend to accumulate large retirement account balances. According to Congressional Research Service analysis, less than 10% of households have retirement assets exceeding $1 million. Among households aged 55 to 64, peak accumulation years, only 9.2% had crossed that $1 million threshold in retirement accounts alone. But that 9% who reached 7 figures in retirement accounts did it through consistent contributions over decades, not through spectacular returns. Tax-advantaged accounts accomplish 3 things simultaneously. First, they automate saving and investing by making contributions seamless, often automatic through payroll deduction. Second, they reduce friction and leakage. Money that goes into a 401k before hitting your bank account never competes with daily spending decisions. Third, they allow compounding without annual tax drag. In a taxable account, gains generate tax liability each year. In tax-advantaged accounts, that drag disappears, either deferred entirely in traditional accounts or eliminated permanently in Roth accounts. According to various analyses, tax drag on investment gains can reduce terminal wealth by 6 figures or more over a working career. The exact amount depends on tax brackets, contribution levels, and time horizons, but it's substantial. The Ramsey study reinforces this pattern. Millionaires treat retirement accounts as core infrastructure, not an afterthought once other spending is handled. The optimization debates matter eventually. Roth conversions can be powerful. Withdrawal sequencing in retirement matters. Tax bracket management creates real value. But none of that matters if you have nothing in the accounts. The first order decision is simply, are you consistently using the tax advantage space available to you? According to IRS data, only about 14% of eligible workers maximize their 401k contributions each year. The rest leave tax advantage space unused while building wealth more slowly in taxable accounts or not building it at all. Start with participation. Optimization comes later. Habit 4. They control the big expenses, especially housing. When you picture a millionaire, you probably imagine a large home, upgraded kitchen, nice neighborhood, maybe a second property somewhere warm. The data tells a different story. According to Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances data, millionaire households consistently carry lower housing cost-to-income ratios than non-millionaire households. Even though they could afford larger mortgages, they choose not to stretch. Looking at debt-to-income ratios across net worth percentiles, a clear pattern emerges. As net worth rises, debt burdens fall. Housing debt becomes a smaller share of income. High net worth households remain far less stretched by fixed monthly obligations. The Motley Fool's analysis of Federal Reserve data found that primary residence accounts for roughly 32% of a typical millionaire's net worth. That means 2/3 of their wealth sits outside their home, in investable assets that actually generate returns and income. For non-millionaire households, the ratio inverts. Home equity often represents the majority of net worth, leaving little in investable assets. According to the Ramsey study, millionaire households demonstrate specific housing patterns. They buy once and stay put, rather than serial upgrading. They pay off mortgages earlier than required. Many were millionaires before they ever upgraded their homes. They didn't become millionaires through home upgrades. That distinction is critical. Housing is typically the largest expense in any household budget. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, housing consumes approximately 33% of average household spending. For many households in expensive markets, it's higher. When housing consumes 40% or more of gross income, other financial goals become nearly impossible. Retirement contributions get reduced, emergency savings stagnate, investment outside retirement accounts becomes unthinkable. But when housing stays at 25% of income, margin exists for everything else. You can save through income disruptions. You can invest consistently. You can avoid high-interest debt because cash flow allows alternatives. The Federal Reserve's SHED survey found that households spending more than 30% of income on housing report higher financial stress across every metric measured. They're more likely to miss bills, less likely to handle unexpected expenses, more likely to carry high-cost debt. Millionaires don't deprive themselves of nice homes. Many eventually live in very nice properties, but they get there after building wealth, not by stretching to afford more house than their wealth supports. The pattern is optionality over maximization. Keep housing costs low enough that cash flow exists for everything else. Habit 5. They stay invested for a very long time. This might be the most underrated factor in the data. According to Federal Reserve data, the average age of a millionaire household head is approximately 61. Not 35, not 45, 61. 2/3 of American millionaires are between 60 and 79 years old, according to multiple analyses of wealth data. Only 9.8% of millionaires fall between ages 35 and 44. Millionaires under 35 are statistically rare. This challenges the narrative you see on social media, where 28-year-olds with Lamborghinis sell courses about building wealth fast. The Federal Reserve data suggests most wealth building happens slowly, over decades, by people who simply didn't stop. According to the Ramsey study, the average millionaire worked, saved, and invested for 28 years before reaching the $1 million mark. Many didn't achieve that milestone until around age 49. 28 years. That's not overnight success. That's almost 3 decades of consistent behavior through recessions, market crashes, job changes, family expenses, and every other disruption life produces. Compounding works exponentially rather than linearly. According to basic investment math, the majority of returns in a typical investment portfolio come in the final years, when the base is largest and percentage gains translate to enormous dollar amounts. Someone with $100,000 invested gaining 10% adds $10,000. Someone with $1 million gaining 10% adds $100,000. Same percentage, dramatically different dollar impact. This creates a frustrating reality in your 20s and 30s. Progress feels invisible. You're saving, investing, doing everything right. But your net worth grows slowly because the base is small. The millionaires in the data push through that period. They didn't abandon the strategy when progress felt slow. They understood that wealth building is a 30 to 40-year project, not a 3 to 4 year sprint. According to the Federal Reserve SHED survey, most people underestimate how long wealth building takes. They see millionaires and assume something dramatic happened. Inheritance, stock options, business sale, lucky break. The data suggests otherwise. The Ramsey study found that 79% of millionaires received no inheritance at all. Not a small one, not a starter amount, zero. Only 21% received any inheritance whatsoever. Just 16% received more than $100,000. And only 3% received an inheritance of $1 million or more. 8 out of 10 millionaires built wealth without any family money. They earned it through the habits we've discussed: consistent saving, actual investing, tax-advantaged accounts, controlled housing costs, and decades of persistence. According to the study, 80% of millionaires come from families at or below middle income level. Only 2% came from upper income families. The path to millionaire status exists without extraordinary starting conditions. The data proves it repeatedly. Here's what the Federal Reserve data makes clear when you step back and look at patterns rather than individual cases. Millionaires are not financial geniuses. They don't have perfect market timing. They don't possess exotic investment strategies unavailable to regular people. Most built wealth through basic approaches: low-cost index funds, employer 401k plans, straightforward diversification. They don't earn extraordinary incomes. Most millionaires worked normal professional jobs. Engineers, accountants, managers, attorneys, teachers made the top 5 professions in the Ramsey study. Only 15% held senior leadership positions like VP or C-suite roles. They don't start with family money. The inheritance data is unambiguous. 8 out of 10 millionaires got nothing from family. They started where everyone else starts. What separates them is behavior consistency maintained over time. They save before they spend rather than spending first and saving what remains. They invest rather than leaving money in cash. They use tax-advantaged accounts aggressively rather than leaving that space unused. They keep housing costs reasonable rather than stretching to maximum approval. And they stay invested for 20, 30, 40 years rather than abandoning the strategy when progress feels slow or markets get scary. None of these behaviors require special access. None require high income. None require family wealth. They require patience, discipline, and the understanding that wealth building is a decades-long process rather than an overnight transformation. The median age of millionaires is 61. That's not discouraging. It's clarifying. It tells you that the path is long but real. People who start at 25 and persist reach millionaire status in their 50s. People who start at 35 reach it in their 60s. The compounding curve is the same. Only the starting point differs. The Federal Reserve will conduct its next survey of consumer finances in 2025, with results likely published in late 2026. When that data arrives, the patterns will almost certainly remain consistent. Millionaires will still be older than social media suggests. They'll still have built wealth slowly. They'll still point to consistency rather than brilliance. Because the math hasn't changed. Compounding rewards time in market more than timing of market. Dollar cost averaging works regardless of starting balance. Tax advantage growth outperforms taxable growth over decades. The question isn't whether becoming a millionaire is possible. The Federal Reserve data proves 18% of households have done it. The question is whether you're willing to commit to the behaviors that 18% share and maintain those behaviors through decades of temptation to deviate. The habits are clear. The data is unambiguous. The timeline is longer than most people want to hear, but the path exists. And unlike many things in finance, it doesn't require luck or timing or special access. It just requires starting and not stopping.